Hello and welcome to week 5 in the Awakened Family Study Group. I am Jena Harris and I'm the founder and CEO of Sisterhood Connections, and we have the lovely Maricela Rios joining us from Idaho, who is a laughter leader in Sisterhood Connections. And we are on week 5 for those of you who have been following each week and reading Dr. Shefali's A Revolution in Parenting. It's been a phenomenal journey, has it not, Mari?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Transformational.
Yes, there's been so much going on. And, you and I talk about this each week. We could really just make these videos so long because it's been really transformative. We've been sharing kind of our journey even outside of these videos in the book. So anyways, I'm just going to just dive in and kind of talk about what stood out to me. There's a lot, but I'm flipping to page 187 where Dr. Shefali is talking about getting out of the head and into the heart. And Mari, you know my work, and I tell people this all the time. I even tell myself, it's kind of that reminder, get out of your head and into your heart. And there's so many times in our life where we do that. And I'm just going to share, I'm going to read a part of the book. It says, our expectations come from a place of heavy judgment, where without our conscious awareness, we create images of how things should play out. When we operate from this place of should, we inadvertently give off energy communicating that we are right and anyone who opposes us is wrong. Before we know it, we occupy a place of rigidity, superiority, and closed-mindedness that immediately pits others against us. As we all know, both parties are locked in this dance. It's hard to break free. So this is really big because, outside of even parenting, I see, my own self, but many people kind of operating from this space. And I always say, the mind is a great thing, but it's also that happy balance within the heart as well, because we do get, just as she put, we get locked into wanting to control the situation that we totally lose sense. And going further into that, she kind of made a reference to, she was coaching a client, and the lady had a 13-year-old son, and he was constantly complaining about aches and pains. And she goes on to kind of just saying that she would cringe every time her son would come up to her and just really being irritated with him, so to say. And Dr. Shefali says, I explained, you are obsessed with how things should look according to your beliefs. And you probably are right, though this doesn't mean you will be successful in connecting with your son. In fact, our attachment to being right is one of the most mistaken things that we can do in a relationship. Your son needs his mother to simply surrender to his feelings and just hear him. And so a little bit farther down, and this is also on page 189, handcuffed by our mental expectations, we paralyze ourselves from responding to life as it unfolds before us, moment after moment. And so, Mari, I'm sure we have many examples many times, but something that really stood out in my heart is, I've shared with everyone that I have kind of a gap within my children. I had, Brock and Brittany really young, and I think I've played this role out many times with all 3 children. But I want to say, and I'm holding my own self accountable and really being transparent and honest with everyone about my own journey. And my oldest son, he's so brilliant, and he's got this really strong personality, but yet I did find many times, I was being, just like she was talking about, in my mind, and really just almost irritated, I guess. Yeah, because I was expecting him to go into kind of an unhealthy pattern, as he always did, and that was my story, as he always did, that I lost sight of him. It was more about me and controlling. And so, just being able to reflect on that and being able to even talk, because now, he's 26, we're able to sit down and have those adult conversations and really expand even our awareness on future relationships. So I know I just dumped a bunch, Mari, and I'm so interested to hear your perspective on that and what you thought about that part in the book and how it's relevant in your life as well as a mom.
Yes, definitely. I think it's interesting how you gave that example of you and your son. The first thing that came to my mind was where it was kind of like a resistance factor. And when we want to have this power and control, our children or our loved ones pick it up. So then they start resisting what we're putting out. And it's just this constant battle. And it's like, okay, what is going on? And it makes it really hard to move forward because we're so stuck. And then, like Dr. Shefali said, and you mentioned, when we have that rigidity, it's like it needs to happen this way. We look at things things have to happen and look like a box, and that's the only way I'm going to look at things. And I'll kind of go into tap into some of the things I'll talk about, but that really made me and of where I even stand when there's all this rigidity. So adding on, I chose pages 190, where she starts talking about the dance of non-duality. And boy, was this a shaker for me. She talks about, she says, the universe is a manifestation of a reality that expresses itself in infinite shapes, colors, odors, flavors, sounds, and so forth. And I had to stop and think, yeah, our world is created of a lot of shapes and colors, odors, everything. And she goes on saying, if you look back on a conflict you may have had with your child, you'll see that you and your child got caught up in a negative spiral because you held on a polarized view of the situation. So she challenges us, I think, in a very good way to think about our world is filled with so many colors. And if we only see from the lens of white or black or purple or orange, we are going to get stuck. So when opportunity presents itself that doesn't look the way we think it should look, then that's where that challenge becomes. But I really think asking us to look at this far beyond our lens. And also she says, when we don't look at a situation in a polarized manner, but instead take time to see the broader picture and put things in perspective, the way we address a child shifts dramatically. The focus is no longer on the child's behavior as bad, but on an understanding how a situation came about and finding helpful ways to avoid a repeat. And I'm going to speak personally, but I have been in situations with my little one, my 3-year-old, where it's like something happens and then it's like this repeat factor. And I thought, okay, what can I do differently? And it really gave me some opportunity to practice some things this week. And I did notice a really big shift. And I was like, oh, okay, this is doable. Not looking at things in such a one way of looking at it, but being aware that there's an infinite amount.
I 100% agree with, you had mentioned, you felt that, a huge shift taking place. When we can sit back and kind of even reflect even on past situations, this is how we can kind of learn and grow going forward. And you said something about kind of looking at it in one view. So for me, it's like that 1D standpoint of kind of just one way that it has to be, and that kind of, I guess you would say, more power and control view. And so, for me, it's reminding even myself about, oh my gosh, I need to kind of go back into that 4 or 5D way of thinking, pull myself up on the mountain and kind of see different angles, open my heart a little bit. But for me, also remembering that, our children are also little people. And something that happened even this morning, I was having a conversation, and even though Jabril is, 5 years old, we already are having those conscious conversations because he kind of had an outburst. He literally said, well, Mom, I feel frustrated. And I thought, this is interesting. And so I told him it's okay to be frustrated. but it's, how you handle yourself. And I guess my point is that, in all of this and the power and control, it's remembering for myself to pull myself away and remember that he is a little human too. And even though I'm having this kind of go on, he has his own as well. So it triggered a lot for me, even deeper than even just kind of the non-duality of what she was talking about. But I think it was really kind of the overview of even the pages we read from pages 173 to 215. It was kind of all on that theme, and it really stuck with me. So yeah. And I guess for me, just as we're kind of ending this video, I was thinking, what are my final thoughts that I want to leave, everyone today with? And I think because of what it's triggered with me is to stop, to breathe, and pull yourself back, especially when you are finding that you're in your head and kind of getting irritated or whatever, that things aren't looking or being the way that you want. My opportunity of suggestion to people is really to pull out and to try to see it from lots of different perspectives, and recognizing where you might be in your head, and how, I love how you said, Mari, how can I do it different, or however it was that you said that. Asking yourself questions, I think, is the common theme that Dr. Shefali keeps delivering through this book, is like going within, inside out, what I always say. So I just want to leave that final thought, going up on that mountain and getting a different perspective. So how about you, Mari? Do you have any final thoughts?
I do, and I'm actually going to do some final thoughts on what you said. Looking at things from a different perspective also asks us to be okay in going into an uncomfortable zone, because it's not normal to ask ourselves these questions. It's not normal to look at things from a broader perspective. So I'm going to ask myself and everyone, that as we're going through this journey, that we can understand from the beginning that we're going to go into these uncomfortable modes, and it's perfectly okay. But that, I think, is not, I feel in my heart, because I've been there, that's where those pivotal moments start occurring. We go in the uncomfortable, see it, evaluate it, and then we can look at things from a different lens rather than responding.
Yeah.
So those are my final thoughts.
I don't know about you, Mari, but I always learn even from other people's experience, and even how they're viewing even what they're reading, the content they're reading. So for those of you who are not familiar with Sisterhood Connections, every Sunday night we have the Sisterhood Circle of Light, and it's free and open to all. Our real inspiration is really about transforming lives worldwide, and through these Sisterhood Circle of Lights, we pray, send love, send light, send energy across the world. And so next week, I just want to say it is week 6. We're going into week 6, and we're going to read pages 216 through 258. And so thank you, Maricela, for joining again this week and sharing your journey and kind of your personal perspective. It's so much appreciated, and I'm sending love from my heart to everyone who's joining now and in the future. And until next week, be blissful.